The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. The Health Department once again defended their decision to recalibrate testing and tracing protocols. During the Laging Handa briefing on Saturday, Health spokesperson Maria Rosario Berjere said that shifting to targeted testing and tracing is a way for the government to efficiently manage resources. Berjere explained that with the high infection rate of the coronavirus, contact tracing is not a priority intervention. But the official clarified that that doesn't mean tracing efforts will be completely abandoned.
Ang ginagawa ho natin ngayon, we will expand the roles of our contact tracers to help in other community interventions katulad po ng pagbabakuna, pagmamonitor po ng may sakit sa komunidad at dun po sa mga ibang non-COVID related work. Now, we also have partnered this strategy with our targeted testing kung saan pinaprioritize na ho natin ngayon yung ating mga vulnerable para sa testing, mga nakakatanda, may comorbidities, our healthcare workers, and of course, those with symptoms po.
In the same event, MMDA Chairman Benher Abalos announced its home care program where COVID patients that can self-isolate at home will be assisted by the Barangay Health Emergency Response Team.
Ibig sabihin ng home care, kung ang bahay mo naman, hindi sarili kang kwarto, may banyo ka, i-check ka ng barangay mo, ng birth mo, bibigyan ka ng mga kaukulang mga kwalifikasyon, pwede ka na doon na lang sa bahay mo. No? Doon ka na mag-self-isolate. Nagiging flexible lamang tayo, kaya nagiging flexible ang tinatawag nating polisiya o guideline ng gobyerno, lalo na ng ATF at ng DOH.
While the world continues to deal with the highly transmissible Omicron variant, experts warn that there will be more variants ahead. Let's watch this.
What's after Omicron? What is after this variant?
Well, you know, it's hard to predict exactly what's going to happen with these variants. We can say with pretty good certainty that there will be more variants coming down the pipeline, but we really think that, you know, Omicron was a tremendous challenge to the current vaccines and the treatment regimens. And if we can handle Omicron, which in many ways when it comes to hospitalizations and the rates of hospitalizations we probably are going to be in a good place to be able to deal with other surges and be able to limit them in the future.
Where did Delta go?
Delta is still around a little bit. We have a few people here in the hospital that are infected with Delta. Delta is at very low levels across the country, maybe 10% of sequences. But Omicron has really come in and outpaced Delta and really become the dominant virus in an incredibly fast period of time.
Andy, we're talking about economic momentum in the face of the Omicron upswing, and we've been talking about when we can expect it to be over. I'm curious about what you've observed about a 5-day isolation period as the CDC guidance lays out, as well as now the United Kingdom. Is that proven to be the effective amount of time that people are contagious, after which they can go back into circulation?
The problem is it's a very nuanced question. There is some data suggesting that if you've been vaccinated, that after 5 days you are very unlikely to be infectious. But all of that data was generated with variants other than Omicron. And we already know from some of the testing procedures, some of the transmission of Omicron, that it's doing things a little bit differently than previous variants. So many scientists, including myself, really wanted to hear that 5-day incubation period ended with a negative antigen test, because that would have really been strong evidence that you would be very unlikely to spread the virus if you went back to the workplace.
Andy,
so,
go ahead.
With other variants, I would have said fine, but with Omicron, things are a little different.
Andy, Tom started the conversation off saying what comes after Omicron, and we're talking about bank earnings. We're talking about the return to work plans that were put on hold as we deal with this latest variant. What will return to work, return to party, return to restaurant look like once we are back to an endemic phase of this virus rather than pandemic?
Well, if there's any bit of a silver lining right now. It's becoming clear that if you've been vaccinated and you get an Omicron infection, your immune response afterwards is not only tremendously high, but it's also very broad, meaning that it recognizes all of these previous variants that have come through. So there's suggestive data right now indicating that people who have gotten through this Omicron surge may end up with a really strong immune response afterwards that's going to provide even more protection against whatever the next variant is. And if that's true, that could be a real turning point in terms of dealing with this as a pandemic versus something seasonal like influenza.
Residents living near the MAGPABAKUNA River in Davao Oriental are worried about their health and safety after sediments from a nearby mine turned the river orange. Gemma Vansenia has the details.
The MAGPABAKUNA River in Banay-Banay, Davao Oriental turned orange after it was filled with sediments coming from the mining company operating in the area. The coastal area where the river flows was also affected. Residents in the area are worried that this may cause harm to them and to the environment. They have been using the river for bathing and laundry as the water supply in the area is still a problem.
Kawawa ang mga tao dito. Di rin makapaglabay mga tao. Kulang na nga ang supply ng tubig ng barangay. Wala rin naman tayong magagawa. Nasa baba lang tayo. Yung mga nasa itaas ang nagdedesisyon.
And since the sediments have reached the coastal area, many fishermen were also affected. They are worried that fishes and seashells might die due to the siltation.
Maglisod kami sa panagat, ma'am, sa mong panginamoy diriya.
Hirap kaming mangisda. Apektado kita namin dahil dito sa mining. Ako titigil na lang sa pangingisda. Maghahanap na lang ako ng ibang trabaho. Okay yung pangingisda namin dati nung wala pang mining. Ngayon, wala na. Di na rin naman daw mapapatigil.
But according to Art Nickel Resources Incorporated, there is nothing to worry as the incident is not hazardous. Nevertheless, they are still investigating the incident and are conducting cleanup drives along the river.
So, hindi naman siya ganun talaga ka-hazardous kasi it's just a matter of talagang nag-discolor lang siya.
Hindi siya ganun ka-alarming, parang ganun?
Yes, hindi naman siya ganun ka-alarming at hindi naman siya ganun ka-dangerous sa tao po. Yung company is nag-conduct talaga ng clean-up to the affected community. And actually, kahapon is nagkaroon nga din ng community service to them in which nagbigay kami ng ayuda.
DENR in Davao also said that they have already formed an investigating team composed of personnel from Mines and Geoscience Bureau, Environment Management Bureau, and Senro. For News 5, Gemma Vansenia, we are One News.
Portions of Rojas Boulevard in Pasay City will be closed for 4 months. Motorists who frequently pass through this area are advised to expect heavy rush hour traffic. Here's the rest of the story.
The southbound lane along Ross Boulevard in Pasay City has been closed to motorists since last Saturday. This as the government began repair work on a drainage culvert that's been in use for more than 50 years, or since its construction in 1970. Motorists instantly felt the impact of the closure. Right as they got off the flyover in Buendia, they were welcomed by heavy traffic. Drivers got stuck at the bottleneck of traffic along Zipper Lane. But once they finished traversing the 200-meter Zipper Lane, traffic returned to normal as they headed to Baclaran. Still, some drivers were complaining about the lack of warning signs that a portion of the Ross Boulevard had been closed off.
Sabi namin maluwag, pagdating namin dito sa parang may banggaan nata dyan. Hindi namin alam na ano pala dito sa part ng Libertad.
Ko alam na may traffic dito. Dapat meron doon. Pwede dumaan sa MAGPABAKUNA Avenue.
The MMDA insists that the DPWH had put up signages, but admitted that they may have been too small for the average driver to notice.
Pero kung maayos sir yung mga signages na concern na binigay namin sa DP, baka magkaroon po sir ng pagbabago.
To avoid the heavy traffic along the zipper lane, drivers are advised to pass through the H. Quezon Commercial Complex on the way to Macapagal Avenue. Delivery truck drivers are likewise barred from passing through the zipper lane and are thus immediately flagged down before they even exit the Buendia flyover.
Dahil wala pa pong directive sa amin regarding sa mga truck na lumalagpas, ang ginagawa lang namin is editor ulit sila pabalik doon sa northbound portion ng Roas Boulevard going to Quirino.
Around 53,000 cars and trucks use the southbound lane of Ross Boulevard on a daily basis. So the MMDA says motorists should expect heavy rush hour traffic for the duration of the closure, which will be for 60 days. Alternate routes for light vehicles include EDSA and Macapagal Avenue. And because of the pandemic, MMDA traffic enforcers are currently operating at a skeletal schedule. That's why they're appealing to the public to not make things harder than they are.
Kung bibigyan po kami sir ng instruction na i-apprehend yung mga pasaway na nagpipilit pa rin na pumasok kahit na diniditor na, yun po talaga sir gagawin namin, i-apprehend po namin sila.
After the 60-day closure of the southbound lane, the northbound lane will likewise be closed for 2 months. Overall, motorists have to endure the heavy traffic along Ross Boulevard for a total of 4 months. The government appeals for more patience, claiming that the motorist sacrifice will result in the greater good. This, as the repair works on the box culvert are expected to prevent flooding along Ross Boulevard.
Here's a quick look at some of today's headlines. The no vaccination, no ride policy in Metro Manila officially begins today. Residents, including Filipinos in Tonga and nearby countries, move to higher ground as the underwater volcanic eruption in the Polynesian kingdom causes a destructive tsunami. And after losing his legal battle to stay in Australia, tennis superstar Novak Djokovic gets deported. And those are the top stories at this hour. Join us again later at 10:45 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime and anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We're One News.